Just starting here, Victor, welcome to the mini geology and welcome to the community.
Oh, it's a pleasure to talk with you. And you were talking about serendipity, and I would say that it's something very, very important. And I learned that from Jack Oliver. Jack Oliver wrote a book about serendipity and how he was led to the finding he did when he was working in the beginning of plate tectonics. And I read his book, and I learned that many times it's just by chance that you go in some direction or you start finding several things. In my case, it's very simple, and I would say that I'm mainly a field geologist that spent many, many years. I would say I got my degree in 1865, and I would say that I spent at least 10 years just walking up and down the Andes, just doing I would say, a geological survey of the Andes, and I would accumulate a lot of data, I would say. But all of a sudden, in 1876, I have the chance to attend a course dictated by Bill Dickinson. At that time, he was in Stanford. An excellent course, because during 1 week we learned just the most up-to-date knowledge of how the plate tectonic was working in those years. As soon as I clarified my ideas, taking that course with Bill Dickinson, I started thinking in that direction. I said, wow, all of a sudden everything was accommodated in some rationale or some way of understanding what was going on. And this was the beginning. And after that, I had the opportunity to attend a symposium in Cornell, the COCOR symposium, to do deep seismic surveys across the United States. And that was very impressive, because the first opportunity I had was in 1976, if I remember well, to see the first cross-section along the Wind River Truss in front of Denver. And this is, I don't know if you realize that this is a very key area, because in the Upper Mantle Symposium in 1970, Professor Belousov, who was the leader of the tectonics at that time, said, I will believe in plate tectonics the day you demonstrate how this kind of horizontal stresses can produce a vertical relief of 14 kilometers, as you have between the base of the basement in the downfront block of the Wind River Truss and the top of the basement in the mountains of the Wind River Truss. And at that time, when he said that, was people like Brian Isaac, Matthews, Latter, many young kids, fanatics who were just pushing for the plate tectonics, took that challenge and started thinking about how could demonstrate that this was some kind related with horizontal stresses. And in 1876, when I was with Bill Dickinson, I saw for the first time a seismic section, a deep seismic section, the first deep seismic section done across the mountain belt, across the Eastern Rockies. And it was a tremendous surprise, because all of a sudden what I could see is that, yes, you have 14 kilometers of vertical relief or structural relief there. But the most important part is that in order to produce that, you need to produce a shortening of 27 kilometers in that fault. What does it mean? That you have 14 kilometers vertical relief in 27 kilometers, a fault of less than 30 degrees must be accommodating this horizontal drop. And we were discussing very exactly enthusiastic. We said, wow, we are in the middle of basement areas. At that time, people were discussing the fault was having a tip of 60 degrees, 70 degrees, 55 degrees, but all of a sudden we know that as a whole, even if the surface has 60 degrees, should have a very low tip. And this opened my mind. I said, oh wow, this is the Wind River Truss. This is exactly what we have here in the Sierra Pampeanas, the same kind of basement, I believe. But to round up all these ideas was that symposium in, I guess it was 1981, if I remember well. It was the COCOR symposium, where a lot of people from the petroleum industry, a lot of people like Jim Munger, Peter Coney, all the fathers of the terrain accretion at that time. They have produced a paper in Nature on the suspect terrains that was the year before, and everybody was discussing about those suspect terrains. Everything was suspected, and it was the last touch I needed, because when I saw how they were discussing which kind of things they were using in order to produce all this tectonic interpretation, I said, wow, but in the Andes we have that even better example of these kind of things. In one of these symposiums I was with Paul Hoffman, and Paul Hoffman at that time was moving to Harvard. He told me, Victor, you need to keep in mind that if you apply what you know in Andean geology, the Cenozoic geology, to the Precambrian, you will understand very easily what is going on in the Precambrian, because many people said that the Precambrian has a different rheology, must have a different things happen there. A lot of big discussion about you cannot apply what you have in the Mesozoic and the Cenozoic to the Precambrian geology. We are the ideas of Dickinson, where I learned how the plate tectonics was working. The new terrain concept developed by Jim Monger, Peter Coney, and many others, plus Paul Hoffman, big challenge, said, Victor, go ahead and try to see what's going on in the Precambrian. Well, as soon as I have all these things together, I start thinking about the evolution of South and South America, and all of a sudden I was able to recognize several ophiolitic belts. I knew that every ophiolitic belt was an ocean, that they should be closed, and when you close an ocean you have deformation, and step by step I did what I did.